I'm all for healthy boundaries, but I tend to think mashed potatoes are the great equalizer. Like, you don't want to spend Thanksgiving by yourself because you can't set politics aside.
Whatever your reason is, I would never let my politics.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a fiery debate that's been dominating social media. Anna Kasparian has entered the fray, delivering a pointed critique of the divisive rhetoric stemming from The View and its hosts Sunny Hostin and Joy Reid. From family Thanksgiving dinners turning into battlegrounds over political differences to accusations about race and representation in the media, this conversation pulls no punches. But it raises an important question. Are political differences really worth tearing apart family bonds? And is the media playing a role in fueling this division? Let's dig in. The controversy started when Dr. Amanda Calhoun, a Yale psychiatrist, appeared on Joy Reid's show and suggested that some families might want to
continue fueling the flames of division. Let's cut through the chaos and see what's really going on.
The topic came up after a Yale psychiatrist by the name
skipping holiday celebrations altogether in light of recent political tensions. Calhoun emphasized that it's perfectly acceptable to create distance from family members who support policies or politicians perceived to harm one's well-being. Her advice was straightforward. It's okay to say, I have a problem with the way you voted, and I'm not going to spend the holidays with you this year. This suggestion quickly sparked backlash, with critics accusing the advice of fostering further division, rather than encouraging understanding. Anna Kasparian was among the first to challenge this idea, arguing that encouraging people to sever ties over political differences is counterproductive. Kasparian contends that personal relationships shouldn't be sacrificed at the altar of ideological purity. She pointed out that cutting off family and friends over voting preferences risks turning meaningful connections into ideological battlegrounds, ultimately deepening the divisions. Instead, she advocated for open communication, emphasizing that keeping dialogue alive allows for understanding and potentially even persuasion. We need to see each other as people, not just political avatars, she argued. Of course, not everyone agrees. Some, like Calhoun and Reid, maintain that taking a step back from toxic relationships, particularly when political differences align with personal harm, is a form of self-care. They argue that no one should feel obligated to endure uncomfortable or harmful interactions simply because of family ties. For instance, Reid highlighted scenarios where individuals may feel the need to protect their emotional well-being, especially if past traumas are involved. On the other hand, voices like Anna Navarro, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and Sarah Haynes offered a different perspective. The choice to engage or disengage remains deeply personal and situational, but one thing is clear. As the holidays approach, many families will face this exact dilemma. Will they choose to embrace dialogue? Or will the gulf of political divides keep them apart? What do you think? Is it better to engage in difficult conversations or protect your peace by stepping away? Speaking on The View, they underscored the importance of prioritizing family unity over political disputes. Navarro shared her personal experience, explaining that her husband's family holds a variety of political views, including Trump supporters, yet they have chosen to put differences aside to preserve their relationships. You don't want to spend Thanksgiving alone because you can't set politics aside, she noted. This debate ultimately underscores a larger societal question. How do we navigate relationships in an era of heightened political polarization? While some argue for boundaries and self-preservation, others emphasize the need for grace, understanding, and the preservation of human connections. Every day, in every job I've worked and within the social circles I've navigated, I've encountered people whose political beliefs differ from mine. Yet these differences have never stopped me from building friendships or enjoying meaningful connections. If I had insisted on only surrounding myself with those who shared my exact views, I wouldn't have had many friends, or any holidays for that matter. There are, of course, moments when I pause and ask myself, am I emotionally equipped to handle this interaction today? As someone who has faced mental health struggles, I recognize that sometimes stepping away is necessary for my well-being, and that's perfectly fine. However, I refuse to let politics be the sole determinant of whether I engage with others. Toxicity isn't tied to political affiliation. It's a personality trait that, unfortunately, many of us are familiar with in our own families. Anna Kasparian took a bold stance in her critique of The View's hosts, particularly Sunny Hostin, accusing them of perpetuating divisive and self-righteous narratives that stoke polarization rather than bridging divides. Kasparian argued that the show's approach, which often leans heavily on moral posturing, doesn't foster unity, but instead alienates people by drawing rigid lines between ideological camps. She highlighted what she perceives as a glaring hypocrisy in the hosts' unwillingness to engage respectfully with opposing viewpoints, despite consistently positioning themselves as champions of inclusivity and dialogue. Kasparian's critique extended to how the media, including The View, discusses race and representation. She argued that these conversations often reduce multifaceted issues into oversimplified narratives, creating caricatures that fail to resonate with the experiences of everyday people. By presenting themselves as champions of inclusivity while simultaneously promoting rhetoric that deepens divisions, according to Kasparian, this behavior not only undermines the credibility of the hosts, but also detracts from the larger goal of fostering meaningful conversations about societal challenges. She didn't mince words in her assessment, asserting that The View's tendency to lean into performative outrage often overshadows the nuanced discourse necessary to address complex societal issues effectively. Expanding her critique, Kasparian targeted what she sees as a troubling trend in media, particularly shows like The View, where the oversimplification of nuanced topics reduces important conversations into polarizing sound bites. She argued that the rhetoric employed by Sunny Hostin and her co-hosts often emphasizes a narrow perspective, neglecting the diversity of thought and experience that exists within their audience. This approach, Kasparian contended, creates a feedback loop of division, where viewers are encouraged to view those with differing opinions as adversaries, rather than as individuals with valid, albeit contrasting, viewpoints. In her view, this not only erodes public trust in media, but also deepens societal rifts, as the space for constructive dialogue is replaced by accusatory and exclusionary rhetoric. By prioritizing sensationalism over substance, Kasparian suggested, The View risks alienating the very audiences it seeks to represent, further entrenching the divides it claims to want to heal. Kasparian claimed the hosts do more harm than good. Rather than fostering understanding, she suggested they contribute to the very polarization they claim to oppose. Sunny Hostin, however, offered a contrasting perspective, emphasizing the deep moral divide she feels underpins certain political choices. Hostin argued that for many, decisions about engaging with family over the holidays go beyond politics and delve into matters of morality and personal values. Reflecting on the Trump presidency, she pointed out how some perceive his actions and rhetoric as fundamentally different from past leaders, making it more challenging to bridge divides. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing on policies, Hostin explained, but about feeling that someone has voted against your very existence or the well-being of those you love. Hostin's view resonated with those who argue that sometimes taking a break from family gatherings is necessary for self-preservation. It's okay to take a beat, she said, acknowledging that stepping away can be a healthy choice. At the same time, Kasparian pushed back against the idea of letting politics alone dictate relationships. She contended that open communication and the willingness to see others as more than their political choices are vital for maintaining meaningful connections. According to her, it's the inability of some individuals to handle conflicts without hostility that often tears families apart, not their political affiliations. Kasparian didn't stop at critiquing individuals. She pointed to broader systemic issues within media. She accused Hostin and others of benefiting from societal. Is it worth stepping away from family over political disagreements? Or should we strive to keep the lines of communication open? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, thank you for joining the conversation.